So a healthy HVAC company isn't going to eliminate dead stock, it's going to control it. And so the difference between say 3% and 7% dead stock rate, it's not just operational noise, it's, you have money trapped, right? It could be reactive buying. And so in this video, I'm going to show you how to measure it, monitor it, and then, fix it before it becomes expensive. And so what we have here is we have a data set, and in this data set, we have, just pretty basic inventory data. If I'm sure you've got inventory, and if you have, it would look something like this, right? And so the main columns we need for this specific video is just, the month end, and then we're going to need the on-hand value, and then also the last movement date. And so what we're going to do, we need to calculate these two columns. But essentially what we're going to say, if the last movement date was 6 months or more, then that's the flag. You can do 4 months, you could do whatever you want. But the way we're going to do that, I'll just do it again over here. If we're going to use a function you might have never seen before, because it's like a hidden Excel function. It's not something, it's called the date diff function. And so the way it works, because you like whenever you type something, whatever sum, you see it, all the different sums here. But if you type in this function, date diff, nothing pulls up, but it's an actual function. It's an old one, and I guess they just haven't removed it. But you do the date diff, and that's gonna you start with the last movement date, and then you subtract the month end, comma, and then M. And then now, essentially what it's doing is it's just subtracting the months. So in other words, it's weird the way it is, because you start with the last movement date. It's not last movement date minus month end. It's month end minus last movement date. But the structure of how it works is a little bit weird. But anyways, it gives us what we need. And so then this tells us how many months it was. So for example, 12/29/24 verse 1/31, it's been 1 month. And so what it does is it just counts the months between, even though in this example it was 1 month and 2 days, right? And then the next thing we can do is we can say, if this is greater than or equal to 6, then give me the on-hand value, because then it'll give you the on-hand stock of something that hasn't moved for 6 months. So equals if this is greater than or equal to 6, comma, give me this if true and 0 if not true. And then you can see anywhere this is greater than or equal to 6, it's bringing in those numbers. And so those are the two columns we need. I'm going to delete this because I've already done it. But now what we need to do is we need to get the ending month in unique list here, because we need 131, then we need 228, then we need 331, but we want the uniques. Essentially remove the duplicates. So we can do that with the unique function. So unique, and then you can just highlight this here, and then you get all of that. And then I'll just put month end. And then I'm going to change this format to a date. I'm going to copy and then Control-Shift-V to paste. Okay, so now we need the inventory value. We could put inventory, you could put value, you could put dollars, whatever you want. And then dead stock value. And then we're going to have a percent, and then we're going to have a target. Okay. So the next thing I'm trying to copy and paste this over, just so I can make it the same. Okay. So here we just want the inventory value. So it's just sum the inventory if the month end column is January 31st. So sum if the on-hand value here, comma, to where this comma is B3, because we know B3 right here. And then double click that down, equals sum if S. Now it's the new column that we created here, where again, the month end, comma, B3 here. And then let me just center everything. And then here, I'm going to highlight, press Control-Shift-4, and then remove the decimals. And then here, this is just this divided by this. Get a really high percentage here. but it sort of tapers off, which is good. And then let's say we have a target of, 4.0%, then and then this equals the one above it. Okay, so now we can actually create the chart. I mean, with this stuff, it's like this does take some time, but the hardest part of any of this is having the data, right? Getting your data structured. If you want this data set, there's a link to download it, but you need to, get this data structured, and you're definitely gonna have a software that you're using to where it'll export to where you can have something similar to this. But getting your data normalized and structured is definitely the hardest piece of this puzzle. Okay, so now we want to create this chart here, and then what we're going to do is the columns are going to be the value of the dead stock. The red line is going to be the percentage, and then the black line is your target line. And you can see the seasonality here in the summer months. It spikes up a little bit, but I'm going to highlight this, and then I'm going to hold down the control key and then highlight everything else and not the total inventory value. Then go to insert, recommended charts, and you can see that nothing here is going to work. So go to all charts and then go to combo. And it's still not making sense because what's happening is everything is on the same axes. So 13.2%, 0.4% is on an axis of, 500,000. So it doesn't make sense. So what we want to do is get the percentages, these two bottom percentages, both to be lines, and then we want both to be secondary axes. Yeah. So and then what's the name of the title? Dead stock percent of inventory. Let's try that again. Okay. And then a couple things, just sort of housekeeping here. Like let's just clean this up a little bit. So first, what we want is let's make this line, this green line, let's just make it smaller. It's just, like thinner. It's just taking up too much real estate. So if you double click on it, you can lower the size here. Let's say we want to make it, I mean, you can make it whatever color you want, but let's just make it black. And then we can make it a little dotted line because we just want to see it, right? We don't need to, it doesn't need to take up a lot of space. We just want to note it, see where it is. And then you could always change this. The reason why we did, equals the one above it is because now you can make it dynamic and you can move it up and down. And then for the red line, what we can do is we want to show the values. And so if you click on the chart, you'll see this little crosshair, and then you have data labels, but it's just way too noisy. And so if you click on the red line, then you can do data labels. And if you want it to the 10th decimal, that's fine, but it's still a little bit hard to see. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the number, and you can see all the little boxes around the other numbers, and then you can just go to home and then font, and you can fill the background with this. So you can just pick whatever color you think is best, and then go from there. And then if you click and press Control B, it'll be bold. But yeah, so that's how you calculate, your dead stock. And so what you'll have to do, I mean, again, this is the hardest thing. And if you want this file to show your team, there's a link to download it. If you can't find it, shoot me an email. My email is questions@databoards.io. And so, yeah, and also if you need some help getting this structured, or if you need some help with your insights, you can also email me, or there's a link to hop on my calendar. But anyways, that's all I got for this one. And if you have any questions, email me. And if not, then I will see you in future videos.